Welcome all. Thank you for joining the webinar. We were looking forward to meet all of you in person for the event Soul Spa, but due to the present circumstances, we had to postpone the event. So once the situation is back to normal, we will organize the retreat and we'll keep you informed. So before we start, a small introduction to the organization. Brahma Kumaris is the largest spiritual organization in the world led by women. It's an international NGO founded in the year 1937, having its headquarters in Mount Abu, Rajasthan, and has a presence in over 110 countries. It also has a consultative status with the United Nations Economic and Social Council, and it has done a number of activities, events along with the UN, including the Million Minutes of Peace. The real commitment of Brahma Kumaris is to help individuals transform their perspective of the world from material to spiritual. Also, as part of service to the community, we have various wings which serve individuals associated with different professions, like business wing, politicians wing. Similarly, IT wing serves professionals from the IT industry. And as part of the IT wing, we organize various programs, including SIT, which is Spirituality in IT. So in short, it is called as SIT. Coming to the topic for today's webinar. So as part of Soul Spa Retreat, we wanted to share with you how to focus on what we tell ourselves to overcome anxiety in present times. So in the current uncertain times filled with fear and uncertainty, it is important that we do not increase our own sorrow by indulging in negative self-talk. So to give us more insight on this, we have our facilitator, Balakishore. He is the Vice President, Transformation at CS Software. Balakishore is in the IT industry for over 25 years and has been practicing Raj Yoga meditation as taught by the Brahma Kumaris for over 2 decades. He holds an MTech degree from NIT Warangal and is a certified coach from the International Coach Federation and co-founder of SIT Retreats. So handing it over to Balakishore.
Thank you, Mukesh. Namaste, everyone. Om Shanti and a wonderful morning. Thanks for joining us. You must have thought you heard about spa treatments, but what is this soul spa? Spa actually is a Latin word. It's an abbreviation. It stands for Sanus per Aquam. That means health through water. So Spa is also name of a Belgian town which was famous for mineral baths during the Roman times, and that's where this word stuck. So what do we mean by soul spa? In a typical spa, you go there to get your body massage, to get your pedicure, manicure, to get your facials and a whole bunch of treatments. All those are aimed at cleansing the toxins from the body, from the skin, and help you relax. So here in Soul Spa, our idea is similarly to share some tools and techniques which you can self-administer. You don't need to go to any spa. You can do it in the safe environs of your room, in your home, of how do we cleanse our mind of negative thinking? How do we regularly maintain the health of our mind? and what kind of periodic treatments are required all through the day for us to be watchful about our own mental and spiritual health. So, in today's conversation, that is what I will be focusing on. And the part 2 of today's conversation will be tomorrow at the same time. So, let's begin with a simple question. So, do you want your mind to be like a jungle with weeds like this? Or do you want your mind to be like a garden like this one? Which one would you prefer? And for those of you interested, the picture of the garden is from the Miracle Garden in Dubai. And the left side part is the roadside weeds. Hands down, all of us would want our mind to be like a garden, unlike the weeds. But the key insight, if we want to have a garden, is weeds grow on their own. We don't have to do anything for the weeds to grow. But garden needs maintenance. So what are those tools for maintenance is what, for the self-maintenance, is what we will learn today and tomorrow. It's very key insight. If you want a beautiful garden, you must learn to maintain it regularly. And maintenance takes time, effort. If you leave it like that, without any maintenance, even the most beautiful garden can grow weeds very soon. So the thoughts we create on a daily basis, they decide whether the weed grows or a garden grows in our mind. We are responsible for our own weeds and for our own garden. And the interesting part is, what is it that waters this weed or the garden? Whatever you are talking to yourself on a daily basis, what we call as self-talk, is what waters our mind. If you water it with fear, anxiety, negativity, jealousy, then the result is the weed. Naturally, weed is of no use because it takes in all the nutrients, but it doesn't give back anything. Whereas if you water your mind, that is, if you think positive, which some of which we will see, we will explore in today's conversation, be calm, be peaceful, be confident. That is, when you start focusing on the positivity in the world around you and in yourself, the result is the garden that gives lot of happiness and joy to us. So that those thoughts that we keep telling ourselves is what we call a self-talk. And this self-talk is what we will explore today and more in more detail. There are many more tools and techniques which form the part of Soul Spa. But for today and tomorrow, we are going to focus specifically on one such maintenance tool called self-talk. And rest of the tools we will see in the subsequent webinars or when we meet in person, hopefully sooner than later. So what is self-talk? It refers to that steady stream of ongoing thoughts or internal dialogue that goes on in our mind constantly. Even while you are listening, if you observe yourself, there are thoughts going on inside your mind. Yeah, this makes sense. Yeah, this is interesting. So that is also self-talk. Another interesting definition is the story I tell myself about my life and my experiences. And self-talk is that mind chatter that goes on in our mind, often just below our conscious thought. This is very, very important. Most of the times, we are not aware of what we are talking to ourselves, we are telling ourselves. When somebody says something, before you feel sad or before you go mad or before you get angry, you first have this self-talk that what he or she said is not right. It hurts me. It is wrong. It is untrue. Only after that will your emotional reaction come. Even though the gap between that self-talk and emotional reaction often is very, very small, it is still there. So quite often the self-talk happens as that mind chatter just below our conscious thought. Now, why is this self-talk important, especially in current times? Why should we learn about this self-talk? A simple equation: small p is equal to capital P minus I. You can try to guess what those three letters are. This is what they stand for. If I ask any one of you, or if I ask you, how many of you believe that you can do better than what you're currently doing in any field of your life? Almost all of you will raise your hands. So that is what we call as the potential, the capital P. But the small p is our current performance. And the reason why our potential is not equal to performance, or our performance does not equal to our potential, is because of I. That I is the internal interference that comes in, and that I is that self-talk. Because what I keep telling myself moment after moment in every situation that I go through influences my emotions, my moods, and my behavior. And when my behavior or my response is suboptimal, naturally my performance is less compared with my potential. And as you know from this simple equation, if you want to make small p equal to capital P, then I must be reduced to zero. So in today's conversation and in tomorrow's we will explore various ways in which we can minimize this I, that is the self-generated interference, and how we can make it positive. When we talk about self-talk, a few of the negative self-talk examples: I am really out of shape. Why should I try? It's not going to work anyway. The only kind of luck I have is bad luck. I never win anything. Nobody likes me. Sometimes I wish I'd never been born. So sometimes we vocalize these thoughts, but most often we keep repeating these thoughts in our mind. There are many, but this small sample should give you an idea about how negative self-talk looks like or sounds like. We also have positive self-talk examples. I'm smart, confident, and capable. I can do this task. I can face this situation. Very important. I failed in this task or in this attempt. That does not mean I am a failure. There's a big difference. And failure is not the end of life. As somebody said, failure is the tuition you pay for success. I can make time for exercise, because before we actually make time for healthy living, we need to make this thought that yes, you are capable of making time. Like each one of you has made time on a beautiful Saturday morning to set aside all your other tasks and join us in this webinar. So this is a positive self-talk example where I tell myself I can make time and then go about creating that time for incorporating positive lifestyle. I'll give another try. a very, very simple thought, which at times might be the difference between me winning something or me losing something. Just giving another try. So these are positive self-talk examples. Now, each of these has its own consequences. When the self-talk is negative, then anxiety, distress, and thus we feeling stressful are the results. And when we keep telling ourselves or making these negative thoughts, initially we will start feeling out of control. That is, we will feel helpless. And prolonged helplessness leads to hopelessness. And prolonged hopelessness leads to depression. So, depression is not an event, it's a process that happens over a long period of time where you start feeling helpless first, then you would not even want to try and do something. That is a stage of hopelessness, and prolonged hopelessness leads to depression. And all of that begins with one single negative thought that we keep repeating. And negative self talk can also make us lose our self confidence, and it also makes us lose our self esteem. And the result is failure. And if we learn to change our thoughts and make them positive, research shows that when you have positive self talk, it enhances our attention and motivation. When they tested a whole bunch of sportsmen, especially those who have consistent record of winning, they found that all of these sportsmen, they tell themselves while they are preparing and even just before the game that I can do it, I can win it, I have the capability. Because this positive self talk enhances our attention and enhance, because if you tell yourself you can't do it and you have decided that you will not win, then you can check your own life's examples where you will not give your 100%. Only when you are sure or when you feel you can succeed will you try to give your best. So even before you try, this self talk influences whether we give our 100% or less than 100%. And positive self talk, it helps manage stress, and it allows us to control our emotional reactions. Very, very important. Because as I said, every emotion, before we succumb to that, there is always self talk that we do with ourselves. Even though we may not notice the gap, after today's conversation, if you sit and observe, become aware, you will start seeing that first a thought comes and then that thought immediately becomes an emotion. So with positive self talk, we can control those emotions before they become nasty. And positive self talk also maximizes skill development. That is, by improving your self confidence and self esteem, your ability to work hard, your ability to withstand failures increases with positive self talk. So, as you see, even though self talk is invisible, it impacts every single aspect of our life. It impacts even our health. We can literally psych ourselves to illness. If some of you had heard about any of your friends or colleagues, hopefully not, but if you have heard that they tested positive or they came from Italy or they just traveled in the same bus which carried that first COVID into India, suddenly you will start seeing, you will start developing cough, cold, fever, even though you know that you haven't contacted any of that virus, because that is the power of our mind in influencing our body, and that mind is influenced by our self talk. Interestingly, more than 90% of our suffering and sorrow is self-generated. I'm making a very big statement, but utilizing this time during this weekend, I would encourage you to sit and reflect. Now, I'm going to show you how we are going to generate our own suffering, our own sorrow through negative self talk. When we struggle, when we suffer, fail, or feel inadequate, it's hard to be mindful towards what's occurring. That means it's hard to pay attention to what's positive. If something bad happens to us, not only do we not like what's happening, we also think there's something seriously wrong with us because happening. And whenever some loss comes to us, whatever that kind of loss is, whatever that suffering is, we feel painful. And that external stimulus, say you failed in an exam, or you missed your flight, or you lost your money in investments, then that external stimulus causes the primary pain. This pain. Not only do we not like what's happening, we think there is something wrong with us because it's happening. That is, we start cursing ourselves for that loss. And that is the secondary pain. Sometimes we feel guilty, sometimes we feel angry. Whatever is that reason, that secondary pain is a lot more painful. Like if your teacher yells at you for whatever reason, or your manager reprimands you, and if he does it in front of everybody, that pain is a lot more than if he reprimands you in private. And the more you think about this primary pain, the secondary pain will increase. In the blink of an eye, we can go from, I don't like this feeling, because nobody likes these kind of feelings of sorrow. And from there, we jump to, I don't want this feeling. And from there, you see how quickly our thoughts jump. I shouldn't have this feeling. And from there to something is wrong with me for having this feeling. And then finally, I'm bad. So this is the interesting way in which our self-talk plays with us, wherein because most of the time we are not aware, we don't take control of our thinking. This is how we magnify our sorrow or suffering. And another interesting insight, when we feel inadequate, our self-concept is threatened. So we attack the problem. And who is the problem in this case? What is the problem? The problem is myself, because I failed. I did something for which my manager yelled at me. So I am the cause of my pain. So I keep whacking myself. And the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves during these situations is what becomes as self-criticism. You are like this only. You will never learn. This is exactly what you deserve. You will never be able to move forward. So these kind of thoughts that we generate to criticize ourselves are the stories we are telling ourselves, but in a reverse gear. And the interesting part with self-criticism is we are both the attacker and the attacked. Whom are you criticizing? And who is criticizing? You are criticizing yourself. I am criticizing myself. So I am both the attacker and the attacked. Now you might say, Bala, what does it mean? Are you saying that I should not become aware of the mistakes that I did? No, I'm not saying that. There's a difference between becoming aware of your mistakes and trying to come out of those mistakes and criticizing yourself and generating a lot of negative self-talk because of that mistake. Because when you criticize yourself, when you also isolate yourself, and getting stuck in rumination when things go wrong won't help. Even though that is pretty instinctive for all of us, this is the first thing that happens where we start criticizing ourselves. It's not going to help because whatever has to happen has happened. What helps is how are you going to rectify what has happened? And it's very important. You joined this webinar because you had the desire to transform yourself in whatever area of your life. So the key or the foundation for this transformation is, what is it that you're telling yourself about yourself on a day-to-day basis? What story are you narrating yourself about yourself? And that story depends on how you relate to yourself. And how you relate to yourself needs to be transformed. Fundamentally, that is what needs transformation if you want the change to be long lasting. And how can we change that is what today's conversation is all about. Instead of criticizing myself, when I am compassionate, my care system is activated. So there is a scare system, SCARE, which is fight or flight, and there is a care system, which is rest and digest. So scare fight or flight response, and care system activates rest and digest. So when care system is activated, oxytocin, that is we also call as the hormone of belonging or love hormone, and endorphins, the feel good chemicals that our brain generates, they are released, which helps us reduce stress and increase feelings of safety and security. And the two most reliable ways of activating the care system are soothing touch and gentle vocalizations. When you see a kid who is scared and who is crying, these are two exact things that any caretaker, mother or father or a brother or a sister or the elderly do with those kids. We take them into our arms, we gently touch them, and then we gently come up with vocalizations. We'll say, okay, okay, oh, then that's fine, things will be okay. So these are two of the important ways or reliable ways which can activate the care system. Now, how do we use this for ourselves through the positive self talk is what we will explore. And the key to this is to become self compassionate. Because when we are compassionate to ourselves, we feel safe and we feel cared for, like a child held in a warm embrace. That is, when I am compassionate with myself, I activate my own care system. So instead of self criticism, if I talk with myself in a compassionate manner, the way I speak with my friend, then automatically my tension comes down, my stress comes down, and my ability to face the situation increases. A few examples. The way you're going to talk to a dear friend of yours when they are in a situation, you need to learn to talk to yourself in the same way. Because I can psych myself up or I can calm myself down. This is how you talk with yourself. As if you are speaking with a friend or as if a close friend of yours is speaking with you. And you can even use your name while you're talking with yourself. It's very, very impactful. Quite often, I keep doing this self talk as a part of my meditation. Bala, this task is a little difficult, but you can do it. Just be patient. You can achieve. It's going to take a little longer, but you can fix this relationship. You can make things happen. So the more I speak with myself in a compassionate manner, the easier it becomes for me to reduce the self generated sorrow and activate my care system. Because I know myself the best compared with anyone else in the world. And what happens when we make these thoughts, latest science also is talking about how by simply thinking we can change the structure of our brain.
While people had this notion that plasticity must be a
Self-talk. Thanks, Rohit. So as you saw in the video, what we think and we repeat continuously changes the physical structure of the brain. And self-talk also influences our decision making based on our beliefs, what we believe. Now try to guess how Thomas Alva Edison's laboratory. Edison was the one who invented the light bulb and many other inventions. So how would his laboratory would have looked like? Try to guess. What kind of a room, big or small? Is it well lit or it is dark? How is he dressed? Are there any papers all over the place? Are there any broken things? Just try to imagine, visualize Thomas Alva Edison's laboratory. Now hold on to that image, okay? I'm going to show you how exactly his laboratory looked like. Like a typical chemistry lab, pretty clean, because this is the representation in the Smithsonian of Edison's lab like it was. Now, even though we did not see Edison's laboratory, any one of you hasn't seen the laboratory, but as soon as I asked you, some of you must have thought about a cramped place, all the waste papers and all the broken equipment all over the place. He's sitting in one corner. All these are the typical pictures that we have been conditioned to think as soon as we think about a scientist. That is why that belief led you to visualize something which you even haven't seen. So now you see how the belief about the scientist has influenced your thinking. Even though you haven't seen the laboratory, you were able to visualize by filling in all the necessary details only based on your belief. That is how powerful our beliefs are. And our self-talk is influenced by our beliefs. So what we see, what we observe are the results and the behaviors. But what we don't observe, which is invisible, these are emotions, our thoughts, and underneath those thoughts are our beliefs, because what we think is based on what we believe. Now let me share. Now that is the key element, that when I think something and I start believing it, that is what becomes my experience. Because if I think but I don't believe, then it will not get translated into the experience. And beliefs form the bedrock on which the edifice of self-talk stands and sustains. So beliefs guide self-talk, and my self-talk reinforces my beliefs. It can be about my health, it can be about my performance, it can be about my political views. Whatever it is, whatever self-talk I am doing is based on my beliefs. And whatever beliefs are getting reinforced is based on my self-talk. Simple example. Emotions that we go through when Prime Minister Modi is speaking. If you believe that he is not genuine and he is fake, like some part of our country believes, then when he is speaking, you will have negative self-talk. Yeah, he's going to speak like this only. This is all fake. Only his bhagats will agree with him. But actually, whatever he's doing is all tamasha, jumla. But if you believe that what he is speaking is right, and you believe that he is working hard for the sake of our country, then when you are listening to him, you will say, wow, this man is so good. He works so hard for each one of us. He is more like a rishi, a modern day rishi who is working really hard for the sake of this country and trying to change the system. So depending on what you believe, your self-talk happens, and the kind of self-talk reinforces your beliefs. Very important. And what are some of the irrational beliefs? If someone says no to my request, it means they don't love or appreciate me. Very, very subtle. It's not love if you have to ask. He or she should know what I want or need. Typically happens in close relationships where the wife gets upset or the husband gets upset because the other person forgot their birthday for whatever reason, or wished them in the afternoon instead of the morning. I cannot solve puzzles, so I'm not good at math. So this is my own example. Before 2008, before I started learning about these beliefs and mindset, all through my life, I was always scared of puzzles. But the interesting thing was, I was very good at math, but I was not good at puzzles. So I used to studiously avoid, to the extent that when I was appearing for interviews after my first job, one of the preconditions I put on the interviewer was, you ask my subject, you ask my project, but don't ask me stupid puzzles. Because the scare or the fear was so much. But I realized that once I started learning about my own mindset, about my own belief system, I realized that I never worked hard on understanding or solving puzzles. Somewhere as a kid, in the beginning, I tried to solve puzzles. I couldn't succeed. So from then on, I developed this fear. And that fear made me think that I was not good at puzzles. And that generated the self-talk, this belief that even if I work hard, I will not be able to solve puzzles. So I never worked hard. Interesting how that becomes a vicious circle until you become aware of it. Then after 2008, once I got this insight, I started collecting all the puzzle books. Now I'm no longer scared. You give me a puzzle, I may or may not be able to solve, but at least I will attempt. I'm not scared. Because, and I'm not beautiful, I'm not handsome because I'm dark, short. These are all irrational or limiting beliefs. What are your irrational or limiting beliefs? How can I know whether there is a belief behind my experience or my feeling? The best way to know is if the response or the reaction from you is disproportionate to whatever has happened, there is a belief underlying that feeling or experience. Somebody says something and your whole is spoiled. There is a belief underlying that emotional reaction. So when our emotional reaction is disproportionate to whatever has happened, check yourself whether it is positive or negative. There is a belief underlying that reaction. I can take up challenging tasks. There's a lot of opportunity out there. This is how scientists have found the first generation immigrants to US are far more successful than the second generation immigrants, because the belief for the first generation immigrants was they had their golden future in US and they went looking for it and they found it. Every individual has potential to excel with proper guidance and training. So if you're a manager or a leader, this particular positive belief will impact both your learning and your team members' learning and development. But if you believe intelligence is fixed and training will not help, then you will never invest your time and energy or effort in training your team members. My past can be reviewed and rewritten. Bad patches are temporary. So check what are your positive beliefs. Every time you overcame a loss or a negative situation and then you bounced back, if you check yourself, there is an underlying positive belief that has helped you to bounce back in that particular part of your life. So check what are your positive beliefs. Now we have been using this belief word a lot. What is a belief? Belief is accepting that something is true or real, irrespective of whether that is true or not, irrespective of whether that is real or not. If I accept that it is true or it is real, then that becomes my belief. Very important. And how do beliefs form? Conditioning since childhood. According to one psychologist, by the time we are 18, 25,000 hours worth of conditioning would have gone into our heads. Don't do this, don't do that, don't speak this, don't speak that, don't dress like this, don't dress like that. All that kinds of do's and don'ts. Personal experiences, they create beliefs. And what we hear from those we trust, very important. What we hear from our parents, what we hear from our elders, they also create beliefs. And beliefs, very interestingly, form our invisible cognitive filters. That means they transform the way we look at the world. It's the same scenario, but I react differently, you react differently based on your belief system and based on my belief system. And beliefs also change our experience. If I hold a negative belief about something, then I will feel bad when that situation happens. But if I hold a positive belief about something, then I will feel good. The situation is exactly the same, but what I experience depends on my beliefs. Now, how do beliefs impact? In any scenario, in any situation in our life, there are certain facts in the situation, and there is a story I tell myself based on those facts. And my emotional reaction and my experience is based on the story I tell myself, not necessarily the facts. You can reflect on that. When somebody said something, you feel so bad. Your manager says, your report is not good, go back and work on it, and then get me an improved report. This is all he says. And he gives you the list of things you need to improve. Now, the fact is, there are certain mistakes in the report that need to be corrected. But now, if there are two kinds of story you can tell yourself. You can say, this manager is lousy. He will always pick on me. Look at that other fellow. He makes so many mistakes, but he never catches him. Only me, he catches like this, and he points out all this nitty-gritty stuff. Actually, the report is excellent. It is only for his eyes that it appears wrong. So this is a story you're telling yourself. The alternate story you can say is, okay, yes, sir. If these are the mistakes, definitely I will go rectify those and then come back. And the story you can tell yourself is, next time I need to be careful. I need to be aware of these mistakes and not repeat them. So the fact is the same. The fact is your manager pointed out some mistakes in the report, but your experience is dependent on the story you're telling yourself. Will you feel sad, bad, mad, angry? Or do you feel that this is an opportunity I'm learning? Thanks to the manager, now I have become better in terms of generating my next report. Depends on the story you're telling yourself. And your story depends on your beliefs. And our beliefs govern our self-talk, and our self-talk shapes our self-image. As someone said, it is not the size of the dog in the fight that is important. It is the size of the fight in the dog that is important. Let me repeat. It's not the size of the dog in the fight, but it is the size of the fight in the dog that counts at the end of the day. I am not what I think I am. I am not what you think I am. I am what I think you think I am. Little tricky. I'll give you a couple of minutes. Just sit and reflect. My impression of you, of what you are thinking about me, is based on what I am thinking about what you are thinking. And it might not even be what exactly you are thinking, because I am not what you think I am, but I am what I think you think I am. Because most of the time we are worried about what others are thinking about ourselves, without knowing that they are also doing exactly the same thing, and they don't have any time to keep worrying about you. This is what we call as the looking glass self. This is where the self-talk comes. This is what I think that my mom and dad see me. and this is how I think my girlfriend sees me, and this is how I think my older brother sees me, this is how I think my ex-girlfriend sees me. Whether she is seeing me or not, I don't care, I don't know. But this is what I think she is thinking. And that is what creates my own experience and my reaction towards her. Very important. Because what I perceive becomes my reality, irrespective of what the reality is. Now, how to change our beliefs and does our self-talk? Let me show you a small clip and then help you understand. Now, you see that? The balls are moving up. That's the interesting thing. Even though we know balls cannot move up, but that's what is visible to our eyes. Now watch. When you change your perspective, the facts in the situation appear differently and your perception changes. The balls didn't change. They were always going down. But what changed is my perspective. Depending on my position, I'll perceive it differently. The key lesson is my perception is my reality, irrespective of what the reality is. And my perception is governed by my perspective. And that perspective is what gets generated or is what influences my self-talk. So if I want to change my perception, change my perspective. If I want to change my perspective, I should change my self-talk. That is, I should start becoming aware and start taking responsibility for my thinking. How can I do that? If this is the old way of thinking, I need to move to a new responsible way of thinking. The traffic jam made me angry. See the difference? How I am taking control of my thoughts. Because it might be a very subtle change in the self-talk that you are making with yourself, but it is a very, very profound but important change, even though it is small, because this gives back control to you, saying you are the master creator of your thoughts. You can create positive thoughts. Very important. And well, when we are in the process, I want to change, I want to transform, become more positive. But how do I deal with the negative thoughts that come in my mind while I'm in the process of making them positive? First one, very, very important, detect. That is, become aware of your unconscious thought patterns. Whenever a situation happens, what kind of thoughts are getting generated automatically without being based on reality or the facts in the situation? Try to start becoming aware of those. Very important. Because if you question yourself, even about the fears about the coronavirus, you need to start telling your mind that, let me start thinking about the data. If I am less than 40 years of age, less than 50 years of age, the fatality rate is 0.4%. And overall, the fatality rate in India is 1.2%. And what they don't tell us is more than 80% people, even if they contract the virus, they recover. Very important. So when I start detecting my unconscious thought patterns, when I start becoming aware, it becomes easy for me to change. So first step is to detect. Next is to disrupt. Do not continue that thought if you know it is negative. Disrupt, divert, question. That is, yes, this fear inside me or anxiety is real, but is it justified? Is it based on data? So disrupt that negative thought and dispute, reframe using counter arguments. That is, you stop that thought and then start asking questions about whether it is true, whether it is supported by any data, or it is just our imaginary fears. And then once you dispute with the data, design new thoughts, new way of thinking. So detect, disrupt, dispute, and design. It's not easy. I'm the first one to say that. It requires practice. And the more you practice, the easier it becomes. Because that which was happening without your control, you started taking the control back. 3 questions to ask in any situation. Starting now, ask these 3 questions. We will share the slide deck once the session is over. So you don't have to worry about writing them down, but just see them. The first question, where are you putting your focus in the current situation? Do you create the outcomes you want, or are you overwhelmed with the problems? In any situation, where is your focus? That is, are you problem focused or are you solution focused? And question number 2, how are you relating to others, your experience, and to yourself? Do you act in ways that perpetuate drama, that is your own unhappiness and sorrow, or empower others? That is, your actions, your thoughts, are they going to increase your sorrow, or are they going to reduce your sorrow and empower you towards positive action? How are your thoughts? How are you relating to others? This is the second question. And the third question, what questions are you taking? Simply reacting to problems, you proactively trying to create healthier outcomes. In any situation, these 3 questions will make a whole lot of difference whether your self-talk is going to continue to be negative or it is going to become positive and empowering. Because negative self-talk pushes you into a state, into a position of weakness, and positive self-talk helps you move into a position of strength. Anything that you do from a position of weakness will not help you to succeed. Even though you see some success, that is going to be temporary, because position of weakness is dominated by unhappiness, by sorrow, by fear, anxiety, uncertainty. But a position of strength is endowed with confidence, with courage, with fearlessness, and with faith. So these 3 questions, when you sit and reflect before you start reacting, when you use that 4D model to become aware of your negative self-talk and ask these questions, they will help you to move into a position of strength from a position of weakness. Now, I'd like to give you an exercise both for today and tomorrow, for rest of today and for tomorrow before you join us for the tomorrow's webinar. Check what kind of conversation you are having with yourself in different situations you're going to face today and tomorrow. However trivial or important those situations are, just become aware. As soon as something happens, what kind of thoughts are going on inside your mind? As soon as you heard those questions, while you are hearing this conversation, what kind of thoughts are happening inside your mind? Because awareness is the foundation for any transformation. And while you become aware, remember, you are the master of your self-talk and you can change it. Very, very, very important. And in tomorrow's conversation, I'm going to share with you a lot more details about how self-talk impacts our brain and how positive self-talk is used in training armed forces all over the world, especially the Navy SEALs, the toughest people in the US Armed Forces, or the best, are the ones that become Navy SEALs, how positive self-talk is used in their training, and how meditation can help improve our positive self-talk is what we will discuss in a lot more detail tomorrow, because that is going to be the part 2 of our Soul Spa. Good. That's all I have for today, and the floor is open for questions. Over to you, Mikesh.
Thank you. Thank you, Patlishwar. Okay, we have a few questions. I would put it across.
Yeah, please.
So one of the questions is, I have been criticized for a long time, blamed. And whenever you feel low, I've been able to read some self-help books, and that has helped me get back my self-esteem for some time. But it's not very consistent over time. And any other person also says something wrong, so I easily get impacted by it. So how is it that you can maintain your self-esteem consistently at a stable level?
Very good question, and it's a pretty most common experience for almost all of us in our life. So first, one important insight. Typically, for almost all of us, 90% of situations repeat. That is, what are those situations in the past that caused you sorrow will be the similar kind of situations that will cause you sorrow even in future, especially if it is repeating because of this self-criticism or negative self-talk. So when there is no situation, hopefully like today and tomorrow, sit back and reflect without judging yourself. What is the underlying belief that is causing so much of unhappiness because of this stimulus? So what the other person said or what situation happened, consider that as stimulus. And your reaction or response, just sit back and then try to see what is the underlying belief that is creating this kind of negative response for that stimulus, and ask yourself, what are the facts in the situation which gave rise to that stimulus? And while doing this, I repeat, be relaxed, be non-judgmental, detach yourself and analyze the situation as if you are analyzing for your dear friend. Then slowly you will start understanding, either you are scared of your impression in front of others, or you are worried that you are not going to have that particular chance once again, or what is that? It will be some other negative belief, some other irrational belief that is underlying that feeling of self-criticism. Once you start becoming aware, once you start writing down the facts, not only from your perspective, but even from their perspective, like the example I gave from the manager's perspective, there are two perspectives. You can say that this manager is lousy, or you can say, let me detach myself and look at the suggestions he has given. Are there indeed any mistakes in my report? If yes, let me sit and correct them. Now, this is the conversation you will be able to have when you detach yourself and you don't judge yourself. And this requires practice. You cannot do this in the middle of the situation. Very, very, very important. Like you cannot study a day before the exam, you have to study all through the year when there are no exams to pass in the exam. It's the same thing with our self-talk. Like I gave you the example in the beginning. You need to every day garden or water your mind with empowering thoughts so that it can create a garden, and not just when the situation happens. And what exactly happens inside the brain, how we can turn the things around, how meditation is going to help, We will see that part in tomorrow's conversation. Hope it helps.
Okay. We have another question. And,
Yeah.
So in the context of the example which was taken where my report was incorrect. So let us say actually the manager is trying to pull you down.
Yes.
Intently do it. So
Yes.
how do you maintain a positive mindset even when the team or the people you're working with have a negative, have something negative for you?
Very good. Very good. Very important question. And again, another typical scenario that we keep facing in today's workplace. Again, sit back and reflect. What is it that is motivating them to be negative? If you do not find any reason and you feel you are doing your best, then also you can sit and have the self talk with yourself where you need to tell yourself, assume your name is Vinod. So Vinod, you know you gave your best. You know this manager or this team member or this team lead is hell bent on showing you in negative light, but don't get perturbed. Stick to what you are doing, continue to deliver the best work. Sooner or later they are going to realize. If they are not going to realize, then you might have to switch the team or move on from this company. So this is the kind of positive self talk that you can have with yourself, because there are many situations in life, especially with respect to other people, which we cannot control. Very important. We must learn to let go of our desire to control others, because a lot of stress and unhappiness is the result of my desire to change things which are not in my control. Like me trying to change my mother-in-law, me trying to change my spouse, me trying to change my manager. They will not change. I can influence with my positive behavior, and at the same time, with positive and empowering self reflection and self talk, I should protect myself from getting negatively impacted because of their negative actions. So that is where this positive and empowering self talk will also serve as your emotional shock absorber. That is, instead of saying, why does this stupid fellow he comes after me always? Come on here. I mean, what did I do? Did I take anything from him? Did I cause him any harm? I actually helped him so many times, but still he comes after me. This is the kind of helpless self-talk we have. Instead, change this self-talk. For whatever reason, he is comparing himself or herself with me. Let me ignore that comparison. Let me do what best I can do. Because today I'm here, I'm working with this person, does not mean forever in my life I'm going to work with this person. Few years down the lane, I will move on. While I am here, why don't I add value to myself instead of wasting my time thinking about what the other person is thinking about me or saying about me? Now you see the change. Exactly the same situation, exactly the same set of actors, but how you feel depends on what your self-talk is. If your self-talk comes from a position of weakness, from a position of self-pity, from a position of blame, you will never become powerful. But if your self-talk comes from a position of compassion, from a position of forgiveness, from a position of strength, then what you're saying or doing will not impact you. This is a very interesting story about Buddha. When he was going around the village begging people, there was one old lady who used to every day curse Buddha, every single day. And this happened for one full month. And finally, once Buddha stopped at her old woman's house, she would never donate anything, but she would curse Buddha. So he stood there, and while she was cursing, he patiently heard whatever she said. And while she got exhausted after cursing for a few minutes, he simply asked her a question. Mother, if you give me something and I don't accept it, whom does it belong to? She said, idiot, don't you know even that it belongs to me? He said, for all last 1 month, whatever you have been saying, whatever you have been giving me through your words, I don't accept them. And he moved on. Again, I'm not saying it's easy. I've never said it is easy. But with practice, it can definitely become more and more powerful. Next question, Mukesh.
Yes, exactly. Just as I said, it's not very easy to do it in action, but the question was more on if you have the habit to emotionally react with anger, is there anything specific? Self-talk is fine, but is there anything specific that you can control your anger at that point in time so that situation passes away and you can just allow the situation to pass away without you reacting?
See, there are two things again. Again, I will take you back. So again, I will take you back. 90% of the situations that make us angry are either same or similar. It's important that you do your homework on every single day, anticipating what is the situation that might make you angry. Because when you anticipate, you are better prepared. And even for whatever reason, while you are preparing and while you are in the process of transformation, you still get angry or you are about to react, at least make this a habit of yours. Before you will count 20 in reverse. Very simple, and practice it. And practice it even for normal things. This is a set of people who make you angry. Even during normal conversation, you tell, as soon as they ask a question, inside your mind, you count 20 in reverse and then only answer the question. And the more you practice, very simple habit, because that creates the gap and hopefully reduces the intensity of your emotion, and hopefully you will be in a better position to respond. So a very simple technique is to count 20 in reverse before you respond.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mukesh.
One more question. This is on the present situation of coronavirus, and even though there's a lot of panic which has been created, so how do you deal with this kind of situation? If you are saying that you're not, the question is like, if you're not very serious or if you're not following what is being told, people might blame you that you're careless.
It's not, see, I never said you should not follow the personal hygiene. Let us differentiate two things very, very clearly. Panic and anxiety is different from carelessness. Here, I am talking about being carefree. And I would encourage the participants to sit there and reflect today on three words: careless, carefree, careful. When you are careful and you don't panic, that is what we call as carefree. When you are not careful, that is when we call as careless. So sit and then educate yourself about what this virus is, how it spreads, what is the fatality rate, what is the recovery rate, and who are the people whom you have met or you have the chances of meeting. Did they actually travel to any of these countries? Did they live there? Or are they showing any signs? So it is very, very important that you start going back to that principle that I shared. What are the facts in this situation? The more you equip yourself with the facts, the more you can control the story you are telling yourself. Without facts, when there is nothing else to engage your mind productively, naturally it will slip to the negative story you are telling yourself, and the result will be panic. So take all the necessary precautions and at the same time educate yourself. And each time panic is about to set in, take the control back. Use those 4D method: detect, disrupt, dispute, and design. Detect that it is going into negative. Again, this thought is coming. Stop there. Disrupt that thought and dispute. Give all data. Yes, I am safe. I will continue to follow all these hygiene. I don't have to panic. Then what happens is, when you start becoming aware of the negative thought and stop it in the tracks and then replace it by placing facts in front of your mind, you are not allowing your negative thought to degrade into panic. That is the only way in which we can reclaim back our state of mind or our sthiti. It requires practice, but it's possible. And each one of us is eminently capable to do that practice. It just requires some effort. That is the reason why I started off this conversation saying, if you want to have a garden, you must work hard and you should maintain it every day. The reason why we find it hard is because without any maintenance, there is lots of weeds that are grown, and suddenly we want the garden to appear when the situation happens. Nature doesn't work that way. Good, Mukesh. We have time for one last question.
Yeah, just one last question. If there is continuous thoughts of negativity coming in, especially from someone who's within your family,
Yeah.
Since their negative thoughts also affect me, how do I
Yeah, it's very important. And this
protect myself
overthinking
from
or negative thinking,
or what's the best way to, because of the other individual, not because myself, but another individual's
correct.
family members thought.
So it's very important to understand and realize that you have no control of what they are thinking and what they are going to think or say. What you have control is on yourself. So if you want to stop your overthinking or negative thinking, then one of the best ways is write those things down. It makes a huge difference. Write down your negative thoughts, because we think faster than we write. So two things happen when you start writing. Because your focus shifts from thinking to writing, the number of thoughts you make will reduce. The speed of your thoughts will reduce. And once you start writing, it becomes easy for you to review and for you to detect and to dispute and to disrupt those thoughts, because it becomes easy for you to review those thoughts when they are written on a piece of paper rather than trying to juggle them inside your mind. And once you write them down, then use the same 4D model and this insight of you looking for the facts in the situation and not necessarily your own story. So this is one of the very important ways in which you can reduce this negative thinking. And the interesting part is, if you can build your psychological shock absorbers and protect yourself from the negativity through these various techniques, then even if they keep thinking negative, you are strong enough. It will not affect you. Basically, you are increasing your emotional immunity. But again, it requires homework. It requires a little bit of effort. If you just sit there and then wish that these things will go away, they will not go away. Good. Can you just sit back for a couple of minutes and then try to recall the key takeaways from today's session?
Find a quiet space and sit down. Take a deep breath and gently allow your whole body to relax. Become focused by moving your awareness inwards to the center of your forehead. This is the seat of the soul. Focus on this point. Within this silent and still space, awaken a spiritual thought. For example, I am a peaceful soul. Hold this thought. Don't think hard about it. Allow your mind to wrap itself around this simple positive thought. I am a peaceful soul, a being of peace. Hold this thought in your mind and very slowly allow your heart to experience it. Reaffirm the thought if you need to. Say it again to yourself and deeply experience it.